Right, I bring to order the Commission on Equity for the City of Lacey meeting, Monday, December 30th, 5:30. I'm going through the roll. I see Commissioner Brown present, Commissioner Jackson present, Commissioner Garza present, Commissioner Hedgewood, Youth Commissioner Powell. And for the record, Commissioner Brown and Jackson have been excused at 7 o'clock, so we'll try to get our meeting done by that.
I'm sure you've got one more commissioner who showed up too.
Great, and Commissioner Hart is available online. Thank you, that's perfect. Then we'll still have a quorum if you all need to leave. I'm gonna ask our youth rep, Karen Powell, to read the land acknowledgement.
We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian tribe and Squaxin Indian tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial. Their role today in taking care of these lands and we recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of disposition, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854.
Thank you. Item 4, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda, previous meeting minutes, and consent items.
This is Commissioner Brown. I move that we approve the agenda, previous meeting minutes, and consent items.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda, meeting minutes, and the consent items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved and carried. We had one public comment or communication I wanted to address. It was from the, yeah, we had, it was the invitation on to go to the dinner with the Black Student Union, and we got it too late to attend. So I would like to send an apology, and maybe it's already done, and encourage them to invite us again, and maybe with a little more notice.
And I have done that, Chair. I've sent them a message just saying that, you know, unfortunately, due to the timing, we were unable to attend, and please keep us in mind for any future invitations.
Great, you're ahead of it.
I'm
Thank you.
happy to send that out to the group too, the message that was sent.
Madam Chair, I would comment that I did attend that.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did. I didn't know the commission had been invited, but through another stream. But it was very well attended by the BSUs from all of the schools in North Thurston School District. So a very nice turnout for the students and the parents, and potluck dinner and a brief program where everyone got an understanding of what Kwanzaa was all about. And the students commented on where some of them were asked the question, why are you a member of the BSU? And they talked about they felt secure, they felt as though they had voice there, they felt welcomed and wanted, and used some words that just say, oh my goodness, does that mean when they're not at BSU that they don't feel those things? but those were a lot of their comments as to why they were part of the BSU.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it was a
The-
great turnout.
Yeah, that would be a perfect thing for us to attend and be part of the community. Is there any online or?
No one is
in the
pre-registered
audience?
to provide public comment online.
Apologies for my tardiness.
So for an inspirational item, that we do every time, I brought the poem by Amanda Gorman, The Hill We Climb, she read at the Biden inauguration in 2021. I'm just gonna read the last couple paragraphs because it just feels like it's a time to go into the new year, into a new administration, into a time of trying to bring people together, this community and the greater community. I'm just reading the last bit of it. We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain, if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we left. With every breath from my bronze pounded chest, we will rise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwest states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of this nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When the day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. So it's important messages for us. And I have a volunteer who would like to bring something for our January meeting.
I'll do it.
Commissioner Jackson. Okay, so moving on, our first business item is to welcome our new commissioner, Raul Garza. He is currently working at Department of Licensing and is in his master's program at Evergreen in Public Administration. Would you like to introduce anything you want us to know about you?
I mean, that's kind of me in a nutshell. No, I'm excited to be here and learn from all of you respectively. I'm new in the public governance field, obviously. I just started my education at Evergreen. So I'm hoping to learn and gain from that and grow from that. I've been in Lacey, Washington since 2018. I was telling, I'm sorry, I haven't learned your name yet. I'll get there, I promise. That I am from San Diego and I was stationed in Alaska, so it's kind of like a middle ground. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm married and have a little kid. She's 8, so that's kind of me. That's more of a nutshell, but that's more of me.
Well, thank you. Welcome. Mhm.
Maybe just a quick round of introductions since we do have a new member.
Bingo.
Annie Clay, this is my last day as chair, and I've been here for three years, and I'm gonna do another term.
Yeah, Cliff Brown, I've been on the commission, from the beginning, and, I'm retired. And I too am a veteran, Army. Well,
Past chair. But, yes.
Yes, yeah.
I quit any question for a minute.
I'm Thelma Jackson, and I've been on the commission from its beginning as well, so we welcome you.
I'm Kieran, I'm the youth representative from the youth council, and this is my second meeting.
Keita Hart, hi. Been on the board since its inception as well, military spouse. And I'm also from Alaska too, so, yeah.
Hi, Kim Sauer. I'm also a state employee, work at Department of Enterprise Services. I've been with the commission since inception. I've been a Lacey resident since 1992, and yeah, welcome aboard.
We have online,
Hey, I'm John Hegwood, former veteran also, or I guess current veteran, former active duty, and also military spouse. Grew up as a military brat, queer person of color. We have a queer child. Yeah, great to have you on board.
I'm Shannon. We've met several times.
Shannon's great.
hey, great, good to have you. Next order of business is our 2025 officer elections.
Just to give some background on this topic, I know you all are well aware, but for the new member and anybody who may be watching, per the rules of procedure for the Commission on Equity, every year we hold an election of officers, and it is done at the last meeting in December. And the new officers who are elected start at the first meeting in January. And the two positions that we have tonight for election are going to be of the chair and then second of the vice chair. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I will turn it back over to the chair to run the election.
Okay. Any questions? I open the floor for nominations for chair for 2025. Commissioner Jackson.
Madam Chair, I nominate Kim Sauer.
Kim Sauer. Uh-huh. Is there any other nominations?
Kim, are you willing to entertain the nomination?
Yes.
Perfect. I think you're a great choice.
yeah, I second the nomination, Kim Sauer for president.
Good, second. Always good. Okay, any other discussion? Well, let's vote. All in favor of Kim Sauer for our next chair? Say aye.
Aye.
So just really quickly, I want to reiterate that you want to have the youth member and the new member, you can and are open to vote, just to recognize that.
Okay,
So it sounds like that motion carried, Chair, is that correct?
that motion carried. Is Kim Sauer is our next chair of the Commission on Equity.
I have to learn the Robert's rule.
Study up.
Here to help you.
I want refreshments at every meeting.
I will entertain nominations for the vice chair. Am I allowed to nominate? I would like to nominate Chairman Jackson for vice chair. Any other nominations?
Commissioner Jackson, would you be willing to entertain the vice chair?
Yes, John, thank you for asking.
suppose. Do I have a second, I guess?
Second.
Third. Right. Any other? So let's vote on the nomination for vice chair to be Commissioner Jackson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that is carried. Commissioner Jackson for vice chair. Great, great. Okay. Moving on. Community survey update. Ben.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here tonight just to report out on a community survey that the city is looking at. This is something that has been identified previously in the work plan for the Commission on Equity to help the city review and provide some recommendations on a potential community survey. Just to give you some background, this is something that is found both in our communications plan as well as our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan to do a community survey on a every other year basis. So the idea being this would be our first community survey in 2025, and then we would continue to do community surveys in 2027, 2029, and beyond that. The purpose of doing it every other year is to be able to see, where we are in the current environment, see if things have changed, if maybe some programs or some policies that we've implemented have had impacts, and to be able to track that over time. One of the things that we've been doing is we took a look at different survey providers, and then we compared that to what our hope was through our communications plan, as well as the diversity, equity, inclusion plan, and what would be accessible for our community members. And we have come across a survey that the city would like to bring to this group just to talk about the potential moving forward, and that is the National Community Survey. I provided in the staff report some information on the National Community Survey, but just really briefly, it's this is from their website, a comprehensive survey that gauges residents' opinions on various dimensions of community life, including public safety, local government services, infrastructure, economy, and quality of life. One of the things that we really liked when we were looking at this particular tool was that it allows for online and or paper submissions. So depending on which route you go, you could have an option for only online responses, or you could send out mailers. The idea with this survey, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is that we really want it to be statistically valid. A lot of the surveys that we do currently right now, we use online as the main mechanism, but we also have community outreach and engagement to try to get other individuals to participate. But it doesn't mean that that's necessarily statistically comparable to our entire community. And so one thing we'd like to do is have a statistically valid survey so that we know kind of what is the consensus feeling in the community. So with it being online, it is accessible, and with it being in paper, it would also provide an additional layer of accessibility for some individuals. The way that this would work is not every community member or resident here would receive a survey. It would be limited to a number that's selected where we think that we could get a statistically valid survey. So this could be anywhere from 300 to 3,000 surveys. So if this was sent out let's say online, people would get a mailer saying that please log on to this list and take this survey. If we send it out by paper, they would get the actual survey to fill out or the link to take to take. There's also an addition to have the survey just available generally across the community as well. So you'd have your statistically valid set, and then you would have your open community set. So anybody could take the survey and participate, and the city could take both of those data sets and be able to take a look at them and see, what differences they might present. One of the things we wanted to do was to have standardized questions over time so that you can catch trends. So for example, in the materials I sent you, I provided one of the examples of a survey, and it would ask you questions about, for example, the economic health of the community. And you could see over time whether that was trending up or if that was trending down, because you would ask the same question throughout time. The survey would also allow for customizable questions. This is something that the city is really interested in because we have some projects where we think we may want to get out specific feedback on that topic in any given survey year. So the two examples that I provided in the staff report today was our parks funding. There could be an opportunity for us in the future. I think, Commissioner Hegwood has talked about the work group that's gone behind it. You'll report out again a little bit later in tonight's meeting, but just building on that and having the possibility to go out and test the whole community and get some statistically valid answers on that. But we could also create, a question or two that is of interest to this group if there was something that maybe not have been covered in the body of the questions. I do want to highlight that the community survey in its current form does ask a lot of questions about being a welcoming community, being inclusive, and so there are some equity questions already contemplated within the survey. The survey also allows for translation options as well. So again, trying to reduce barriers to participation and having it available in a couple of languages. There's also accessibility options, in particular with this being online. It allows for some additional tools for community members to take the survey. Another reason is that it also provides national benchmark comparisons. Because there are a grouping of standardized questions, we would be able to determine how we were doing as a jurisdiction comparative to other jurisdictions of a similar size. So I'll use the example of, we're around 63,000+ now at this point, maybe even closer to 65,000. And so we'd be able to compare ourselves to other jurisdictions around that kind of 60,000-70,000 and see where we fall. If there were any areas in particular that maybe in the future we should contemplate focusing on. And then finally, another important element that this survey allows is it allows for a comparison of results by demographics as well as geography. So you can actually take a look at how different neighborhoods feel. You could take a look at how, for example, people who own a home or people who are renting, and get different kind of comparisons throughout the community. I did provide a couple of examples in the staff report of other communities that have used this particular survey. For example, I provided the City of Woodinville's 2023 community survey, and you can see all of the standardized questions that it asks, and I want to circle back to this in just a second. I also provided a copy of the City of Denver's dashboard. This is an online tool, so in addition to the paper report that the City of Woodinville received, there is also an opportunity for a dashboard where community members can take a look at the information as well and see, again, where the city is as a whole and where it's trending. And then I also provided an example of a report from the City of Grand Rapids, Michigan, which provides an example of how you can use the information from the survey and break it down by demographics. And so happy to go over any of those materials, but you can find them all in the staff report. One thing I did want to highlight, and I mentioned this earlier, was how this could be a tool for accomplishing several of the benchmarks that were established in our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan. So specifically, this survey would allow capturing data in our community access and engagement goal area, our policy programs and services, as well as livability. Each one of those goal areas had, sub areas, and within each of them we had benchmarks. So as an example, within programs, policies, and services under city services, which was the sub area, there were benchmarks like rating of city government increases. Scores are consistent across demographics. Rating of overall direction that the city is taking increases. Scores are consistent across demographics. So I've given a number of those benchmarks that this tool would help us get that baseline and accomplish. And the one thing that the strategic plan does identify, like I mentioned earlier, is that this would occur every other year. And so our hope and intent is to move forward with this type of survey in 2025 so we can create that baseline and then update it in the future. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have, or any things that we want to discuss, or concerns or other items.
Open up, Commissioner Jackson.
I was trying to find the specific page, but I can't. When I reviewed it, there is a section on there called potential customization. It's in there somewhere.
It's page 5 of the staff report.
Page 5?
Mhm.
Okay, maybe that's where I saw it. I think that gives us a place to really make it relative to Lacey, in addition to all the other data points that are included in it. And I did notice in, I guess it was Woodinville or someone, they had a section on education, K-12, higher ed, and this kind of thing. I think that would be a very interesting customization on our part. What is the condition of education in this community? Are our students graduating? Are they graduating adequately educated to be successful adults? Just some customization in that whole area. The whole area of early learning and early preschool and childcare. That has become a real issue as to whether or not childcare is available. And so to dig down a little deeper, other than just the generalized question, but for us to really ferret out where are we as a community in those livability categories that we have. And that survey that the City of Olympia did with their Race and Equity Commission, or whatever their name is, they really delved into some specific areas as it related to race relations, how people felt about their treatment, other than just a broad question on equity. And there could be some helpful questions we could garner from that Olympia survey that might help us, because there were some very interesting responses
Yeah.
from people in Olympia to those questions. But I think the quality of the output depends upon the quality of the questions and how they're asked. So that customization section is going to give us a real opportunity to delve more into the areas that we've shown some interest in. And again, next year and 5 years from now, you know, have we made any progress? Have we retrogressed? But those are some areas that I think we could borrow some questions from that Olympia survey as we look at the customization aspect of it. And I like the survey and the fact that it adds that arena. And that's what really will make it relative to specifically the city of Lacey.
Yeah, I agree, in that the questions are kind of vague. Does our community feel inclusive? You know, it's, many people could say yes, but if you delve down, have you experienced hate speech or intimidation? You know, to get some real particulars from the community.
Does it give it?
So I had a question about there's statistically valid group, that's by invitation, kind of, is it targeted to be sure that it is the broad spectrum of our community?
That's, it's a good question, and that's where determining, you know, an accurate sample size per the population, with the idea being that if you send out enough invitations, you will get responses that represent the community. But I do think that is a common concern, that even if you approach it this way, that you may not get a representative sample, and you may need to, you know, use some statistical means to see if you can't find something a little bit
Yeah.
more representative.
Olympia did a survey, I think they've done a number of them, but one of them, they actually hired people to be at a number of events so that they would get the responses from a variety of people in that. And, you know, in terms of surveys, it does sometimes take a like a person or like, no, I really mean it, please, please. So I'd be interested in how we can target a little bit more our survey.
Getting it out and accessibility. Do you guys have a kiosk? Like I could see kiosks being at like someplace like the library where a lot of people go in. I guess they would also have access to the computers that were there, but some other areas, because especially when we're talking about online, people may not have the access to online, but if we had a kiosk available for them, either here at the city or some other areas, in addition to maybe hiring somebody to encourage them to to answer questions off the kiosk.
Or community messengers, no, community.
Community liaisons, and I was gonna bring
Liaisons.
that up, that is something that will be coming back to the commission here shortly, and so just for a quick background on the community liaison program. This is something where we'd be hiring community members in some capacity to go out into the community and either have a two-way communication dialogue or one-way, depending on the circumstances. So this, could in the future help other surveys, where you're going out and you're saying, can you, please take this survey on behalf of the city. With the idea being that you're sending, I think one of the best ways I've heard it explained is trusted messengers into the community where they feel comfortable with community members to try to get participation. With this survey, I think part of, again, the one is to have that statistically valid survey and having the process in order to be able to do that. When you do, direct surveying, it may look a little bit different, and that's where this one is nice because you can be flexible and have your statistically valid data set, but you can also have potentially another data set too for the broad community to be able to participate in. And I think your examples of, going out into the community are great things to consider, and certainly, in the future, when we have a community liaison program, that is something we are interested in making sure is enhanced.
Yeah. Wonder how you get the youth vote or the youth to fill out the surveys, probably within the family, but we have some very independent youth that would, fill out these surveys and give us a little bit different take on how they see the city. Sure.
I think it would also allow an opportunity for those of us on the commission to communicate with the constituency groups that we are affiliated with as far as encouraging completion. We don't want to skew the results, but at least to help people understand the importance of it and make their voice known and the options they have in completing it. And that's where, we can step up to the plate on the various activities we attend and the groups that we're part of, in addition to the Equity Commission.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I think we kind of serve that role as being an advocate. Really try to advocate and sort of like educate the importance of participating and raising their voices. And so I think we do need to play that kind of like in personal level as well. I mean, I kind of do that with my Korean group. Sometimes they don't know, sometimes we kind of have to make it easier, but I do believe that we have to play that role.
Kira.
I agree with, I guess, kind of everyone's saying about, it's kind of like knowing your audience. So how I might talk here, I would probably not talk the same, like if I were to attend school, because, it's a different group. I think a way to get more youth involved or just like young adults, like 18 and 19, still high schoolers. I think having schools encourage students and like informing them. Cause, I don't think one of my friends follows the City of Lacey Instagram account probably, or the Facebook account. So it's gonna be a lot harder to, tell them through that because they're not looking for that survey to take. So telling schools about it, and maybe during advisory time, they can be like, hey, there's a survey, this affects you, and just educating the youth so we can get their opinion, I think is really important.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Anything else on this?
Are you?
Wait,
Are they tracking how an individual is taking the survey, whether they do it online or if they've done it in both places, and how is that being tracked?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so typically how I've seen surveys like this be done before is you have a unique PIN
Hmm.
that's specific for you. So if you were to take it online, you would take it through that PIN number. And then if you were to mail it in, it'd be under the same PIN number. So I think that they would only use one data set in that particular case.
And then would there also be option to call in? Would that be a something that could be done? Because if they don't have access to online, but then maybe they're not motivated to send back a paper or anything like that, could they call and maybe get like either a human or a thing where they can just push a number, you know, that, and would they also have an option, like another option where they could give their own feedback or something where we could kind of delve deeper into an area where we didn't even consider?
I think, it's a good question, and I think with the purpose of this particular survey, it's to try to get the general feeling of the community. And that's why when you do look at the questions, a lot of them are pretty broad. For example, the city as a place to raise children, as a place to work, as a place to visit, as a place to retire. I think using this data would help us then determine potential future engagement that we'd want to do on some of those topics. So for example, if the score was really low on just, I'll use the example of sense of community. That could be something in the future that we have more kind of targeted engagement on. With this, one of the benefits of having this is it's very number based, right? So when you're looking at your like methodology. And so it's pretty, hey, this is the score, these are the average, here's your statistical information. When you start asking for more qualitative data, then it requires somebody to kind of review it, code it and all of that. And that's really not the intent of that survey, but we do a lot of surveys where we have qualitative data like that. And I'll just highlight a couple of them that I think this group has been involved in and aware of, but we currently have, our comprehensive plan survey where there's opportunities to provide some qualitative data. We had our human services survey where you could provide some qualitative data. And so this tool, I think, is not necessarily to dive into every single type of question or concern or element of community life, but to paint the broad picture to help us really put direction towards some elements.
For these surveys, do you need like an email or an address to fill them out? Cause I know like for houseless people, if they're at a shelter and they fill this out and it's like, what's your address? Who might
yeah,
not have one. So what would you, can they still take it or?
Yeah, and that's where there is again the benefit of having the statistically valid portion of it. And I hear absolutely what you're saying of, hey, in that version, you're gonna have the unhoused community unrepresented, right? And that's, I think, a very good point. But you also could have just the general community base, and that would be open to anybody. So when I was explaining earlier about the PIN situation, that would only be in the case of if you were part of the statistically valid survey. You could be able to take the survey in the broad general one without having a PIN that was identified through some sort of address, because again, some mailer went out. So that would be a way that that community member could take the survey.
I'm a little confused about that. So the general public, not the statistically valid people, does the general public, does their input go into the numbers?
You would effectively have two data sets at that
Two.
point. You could make some comparisons, right? You could say, hey, here's what we got from the statistically valid.
Yeah,
Here's what we got from the community members who took it through the general.
yeah.
We also recognize that, when we're doing kind of our general surveys, right, most people are getting it through some sort of social media mechanism or through a program. It's not sent out to, 3,000 randomized samples.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I took statistics, so it's a little, but, yeah. So if there was a big difference, then it would, like, the next time, we were gonna have to tweak, really target or get a broader sense of from our statistically valid.
Yeah, I think that's a good question of, what could be next steps if there was a big difference, and maybe that's some sort of follow-up, survey that allows us to do some more qualitative, information. But this one is just by the nature of how it's set up, really quantitative.
Yeah. Maybe you would just look and see if there's after this discussion, if there was on those questions related to education, would there be any other question you think maybe in our customized version we could include and just double check in the equity and inclusion questions and see if there's anything that you think we might add.
Absolutely.
One last question for me. When do we anticipate this survey being ready to roll out? There's a lot of tweaking that I see need to go into it. What are we looking at? Spring, maybe?
I think that's probably very reasonable to say spring. I think one of the things that we're waiting on is the next part of what we're doing with the park project. And so hopefully we'll have a little bit more clarity of that here in Q1 of 2025. So I would anticipate spring is where we would like to be.
All right, if nothing else on that, I will move to 7D, city designation overview.
So sorry, translation. So like a human service, are we gonna just ask volunteers to help translate? Or are you gonna actually spend some money and get a professional?
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits again of using, this organization is and having the standardized questions is they have had experts translate the survey, so it would not require,
Okay, even though I
Since it's
consider
gonna be
myself
sour.
expert.
and certainly in the future, again, we will be, trying to get experts to help us with our questions.
Thank you.
All right, so sounds like we're moving on then to 7D. And I just want to remind the commissioners, this was something that came up at the last commission meeting, and this group just requested some additional information on different types of city designations. And so you can see in the staff report, it provides some background on what a sanctuary city is and then what other inclusive city designations are, such as inclusive cities and welcoming cities, et cetera. And then it also just highlights some of the ways in which the city is already working on some of the elements that are typically in some of these resolutions, designating other jurisdictions within its diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan. So just as a high level overview, again, on sanctuary cities, we talked about this last meeting, but really the term lacks a kind of general consensus or meaning, but if there is one element that you can pull out of it is that there is a limit of resources or cooperation with the federal government. In most recent history, this is particularly true for immigration enforcement. However, if we go back through time, this term has been used in kind of a multitude of facets. So, I provided some of these examples at our last meeting, but just as a reminder, for individuals who were immigrants in the 1980s from Central America, individuals during the Vietnam War, protection for Muslims after 9/11, and then federal immigration just broadly recently, and then LGBTQIA protections. One thing I did want to highlight is that the term sanctuary city does not have a legal meaning or authority. So for example, federal immigration or enforcement activities, if we're using that term of sanctuary city, can still occur within a sanctuary jurisdiction. It would just mean that a local government's resources may be limited to it, but that federal resources could certainly continue to operate. In the staff report, I provided you a pretty good breakdown from MRSC, which just talks about the differences, and you could click the link to take a look at the full article itself. One thing that the article does highlight is the reasons why jurisdictions have, opted, to move forward with it or to not move forward with it. It also brings up the idea that, there are other designations for cities. And so I put a section in here that goes over other city designations. And again, I mentioned inclusive city, human rights city, or welcoming city. And just like sanctuary cities, these designations often come through the form of a resolution that is adopted by the governing body. And I provided just a real quick list of what these types of resolutions for a inclusive city reaffirm. And I think I'll just read a few of them, although you can certainly read all of them, but to highlight being a safe and inclusive and welcoming community for all people to live, work, and play, valuing diversity and respect, being fair, inclusive, and equitable, a commitment to protecting and serving anyone who resides in, works in, or visits without discrimination, upholding the constitutional and civil rights of all peoples, taking a stand up against hate, discrimination, harassment, and any behavior that creates fear, isolation, or intimidation. Having places where employees support these principles that I just noted above and embody these ideas. Having city policies that are reviewed for equity to make sure that they don't discriminate and that there are no conditions placed on services regarding citizenship, immigration status, race, etc. Where citizen information is not asked or retained except for by law, and where there is a commitment to inclusive community engagement. I provided a few examples of jurisdictions that have moved forward with inclusive city designations. For example, we have Tumwater here locally. We also have up north, the city of Kirkland, Kenmore, Duval, and then Bothell had not one but two resolutions to this fact in 2017 and then 2020. Like I mentioned, reading through these city designations and these resolutions, I was struck by how a lot of the ideas described in them are currently found in the diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging strategic plan. And so I took a look at a couple of the cities, and I think sometimes the inclusive city designations in particular predated them adopting inclusion plans. And we're at a position where we have, as a city, thanks to the help of the people sitting around this table, adopted a diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging strategic plan. And so I've highlighted just a couple of areas in the staff report where it does reaffirm those sentiments. And I think I just want to just really briefly, you can see in the actual resolution where it talks about making sure that we're advancing equity in Lacey and creating an equitable society for all, where we eradicate all forms of racism and oppression and engage and listen to community members and work collaboratively with community partners in these efforts. It goes on, and I know you all were part of designing this, but to highlight just the mission, the vision, and the values all articulate this. And I wanted just to highlight the values where it says the City of Lacey champions change that leads to a more equitable society for all community members, regardless of race, gender, income, age, sexual orientation, disability, nationality, religion, gender expression, English proficiency, and educational attainment among other identities, many of which can intersect to create compounding marginalization or privilege. We can also highlight it in the staff report certain goal areas that also are in alignment with this. In addition to the diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging strategic plan, we've also had a recent city proclamations that highlight and celebrate the diversity of the Lacey community. And then most recently, and I know you know this because you all helped create this, the city issued a proclamation on December 3rd of this month against hate, racism, and discriminatory actions, where the proclamation urged all community members, businesses, and organizations to stand together in rejecting hate. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
And I'd like to also note that the city had an official proclamation of Transgender Day of Visibility this year. And that is as a very strong statements from the city about the inclusion and knowing the issues of transgender violence and violence towards transgender. Discussion on this.
I really appreciate the depth to which staff pulled this together. The definitions are very helpful because people just have a tendency to toss out the word sanctuary city without really understanding what it means, what its limitations are. And so this really helps to understand that it has no legal boundaries or whatever. You can't do something over in Olympia because it's a sanctuary city, run over here in Lacey and think you're immune from, any retaliation. But I didn't realize, it goes so far in depth of the law. And when we look at what we've done, and it gets into the beginning of our beginning to monitor and hold accountable our strategic action plan, when we talk about, feeling safe and secure and treated with dignity and respect, those are some heavy words, and there's a lot of meaning behind them. I think I shared at our last commission meeting, the feelings I had about having to drive down the street and see flags being waved called Trump country and AR-15 sold here. So what's the city's role in that kind of thing? We have ordinances against where pot shops can be situated, where massage parlors can be situated, and now we're down to foot massages. But what about the idea of some kind of, the word ban is strong, but some kind of acknowledgement of the fact that once a month, there's a gun show in Thurston County, once a month for years. And, is there something that says that's prohibited in a residential community, in some proximity of a school or church, or that gun shop there at the roundabout on Lacey Boulevard? So we've got some words in here that mean a lot. But I think to step back and to examine, what does it mean? And what kind of conversation, a discussion needs to follow so that they really, really have some meaning. Because, I can't be the only one offended. The flag waving person on the sidewalk saying AR-15 sold here in Trump country. I know that's freedom of speech, and it gets into a touchy-feely area for the city. But where do my freedoms end or begin, to have to be subjected to that? So those are the kind of conversations I think our very strong positive language leads into. And I don't know if anything can be done about it. I just know the words say this, but in actuality, that's what some citizens are being subjected to. But I really appreciate the good piece you all did on what it means to be a sanctuary city, welcoming city, and all those kinds of things. But are we really? I think that's the question. But are we really? So we got to move beyond just words and make sure that, acknowledging one person's right isn't stepping on another person's rights. So I just raised that again.
Yeah.
It's true, because how's it impacting other businesses that are around there too?
Pardon me?
So, yeah, I mean, that's true, because how is it, not only is it the people that are out on the street seeing it, which I've seen they've cleaned it up a little bit, but there's other businesses that are there. Matter of fact, when I drove past there the other day, I thought about you and what you had said at our last meeting. And so I had noticed that it's not as bad as it used to be, but as I had passed by it going into the traffic circle, I looked back and I saw on that same building, on that sign, advertisement for a dance studio, that's gonna be right there. And I don't know if it's in that same building, but it's gonna be close because the sign was right there on the back side of the building where the gun shop was, and I just was like, are you serious?
But it's right in the middle of a residential community, a
Mm-hmm.
historical residential community in Lacey. Churches, you know, so we just gotta make sure words mean what they say.
I think it's important for our community to hear us talking about it and looking at this and highlighting the steps that the city has taken and the council can decide if they want to take up this issue, but I really appreciate the work that's gone into it, and then anybody in the public can go to the agenda with those.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
This whole list of information for it, so, yeah, it just feels important to talk about, for sure.
Especially the gun show ones too, do they not have to like report a permit or something to be able to do that monthly?
Well,
If that's happening monthly?
I would just say, you know, that is at, you know, the fairgrounds, and I'm sure there's a process for proceeding with that. And, you know, so that's certainly something that we could get some more information from Thurston County. But I know, you know, this group, we've reviewed, you know, sign code as an example before previously. And just recognizing that, you know, our codes have to be, content neutral, right? So you can talk about regulations on, you know, sizes and types. But freedom of speech is, you know, one of the tenets of, you know, this country.
Yeah. And it might be something we personally could, you know, get petitions to the county or whatnot, maybe not as a city.
I know it is freedom of speech, but I agree that it does feel, I mean, I feel threatened when I walk by that area or when I'm just driving by it, because there's always something going on there. Like I can remember walking by that area with my friends, and then there's loud cars like revving and stuff, and it's like, oh, like it doesn't make you feel very safe.
Intimidated.
But I think with what you described, it sounds like they were making some implications, because it's not just them saying like, you know, we support Donald Trump, because that is within their right. But it's the implications that are behind it, that we support him and we are allowing you access to this violent thing. I mean, as a student, and I mean, I attend school, so we do the lockdown drills. I mean, that is pretty scary, you know? And so when I hear about that, it just adds that whole new level of fear, especially knowing that there are so many people around me who support that. So I think it's interesting because it is freedom of speech, but it wouldn't be such a big deal if they didn't have those implications. Like it's different having like a Trump sign in your yard, which, you know, I think we all are kind of like, when we see that, but it is different. They're taking it to a whole new level with that implication, and I think that's what really gets to me.
This just happened to have been the day after the election.
Which is
Intentional.
Yeah.
Intimidation, threatening, harassment, all those words.
All right, anything else on the city designation discussion? Right, let's move on to 2025 work plan.
Okay. So I know a lot of you who have been here for the last 3 years know exactly what we're doing. But every year we have to recommend a work plan to the Lacey City Council for 2025, and then Lacey City Council will move forward with an adoption of the plan, or they will determine they want the group to take another look at it, or maybe they'll add or amend it before moving forward with its approval. So what you all have in your packet under this item, we reviewed it at our last November meeting, and that is a draft 2025 Commission on Equity plan. I do want to highlight that I will need to update the first table in the plan to accurately reflect the commissioners who just had an additional term appointed by the council members. So I think that is certainly something that needs to be updated before we bring it to the council. I did also make a few updates since our last discussion on it in November, and a couple of them to highlight. Number one, the joint meeting with the Lacey Youth Council. There was some desire to move that a little bit earlier, and so we have moved it into Q1. And so we will be holding our joint meeting with the Lacey Youth Council at the February meeting. And so that is February 24th, 5:30 p.m. here at City Hall. We'll have the Commission on Equity and the Lacey Youth Council joint meeting. The next two items were really just to reflect the conversation that we had previously about city designations. And so we'll just keep those right as is with the pending discussion on there for right now. The fourth thing that was changed was hold an informational meeting with representatives from local education institutions. And as part of that, I heard to make sure that we express an invitation to administrators and also individuals who might sit on their policy boards as well, in addition to some of the staff members that we've had previously. And then also we updated commissioner information on our new commissioner, who we're really excited to have. And then we also moved up the review and recommendation on the community survey, just to reflect the fact that we do want to do this a little bit earlier. Time, like we mentioned in our previous conversation, under community survey is pending. So I guess, one question I have for this group is based on our last conversation for the city designations. I think, we have provided an overview, and our recommendation is to take these elements out of the recommended work plan. And with that, move forward with the recommendation to recommend the draft 2025 Commission on Equity plan to the Lacey City Council. But I wanted to check in with the commission and have a discussion on if there's any other items that should be considered.
Excuse me, again, what are you proposing to take out?
I'm glad you asked. Let me clarify. So I think, just given the conversations, we went over the
Already have.
review of city designations. And so, for right now, since there's no action associated with it, just taking those two items off to reflect that
This
we
is 2024.
had, some conversations on it. So that would be removing the research on city designations and taking any recommendation off of it for right now. And then updating the information to accurately reflect the commissioner's appointments. And Chair, I believe you had a hand raised.
Um,
So I
Sean,
think Chair Clay clarified that this was for the 2024 plan, so that answered my question.
tell us about this before we send it to the council to approve our work plan.
How tightly bound are we to this work plan if something emerges or something comes up that we haven't included here, but something we want to look into or tackle or question or whatever? Is it so tightly bound that, okay,
Yeah, and I think that's where if you look at each quarter, we do say other policy items or programs as they come up, because I think this group recognizes that things often do come up. And I'll use the example of the park sponsorship discussion and recommendation that this group had with the Parks Culture and Recreation Board. I believe 2 years ago now, although it's testing my memory. But you know, that was something that was not on the radar of either group to take a look at and that we ended up taking a look at. So yes, if there are other items that come up that the council is would like to review, that certainly at their discretion.
Commissioner Hedgewood, do you have another question? Or your
Oh, I wanted to see if we wanted to consider also Lacey Pride in our work plan for the coming year. And like lay out the roadmap for that, because this would be the time to account for it. We can even just approach that idea with the council, of course, and there's still obviously a lot of work and discussion involved with that, but I think that's probably a big ticket item that at minimum warrants listing it on here.
Like having our own pride program or.
Right, or whatever that looks like. There could even be like a joint thing. I've heard discussions about like a Thurston County Pride that kind of took place last year after Yelm hosted its first Pride. They did a continuance, but it was at the fairgrounds this year. And so, you know, again, perhaps there's a way for us to like kind of join forces on that or collaborate, whatever that looks like. But just as a general touch note right now, Lacey Pride would be what I would suggest.
Yeah, maybe we could say how could we, the commission, support the gay community in creating something? For me, I think it's the gay community that needs to create it, not the commission or the city council. And I think it sort of organically has to rise up.
Sure. I think I would envision it something similar to perhaps us like with our Juneteenth event, right? And kind of supporting the Fred U. Harris Lodge and offering the city support with
Yeah.
that, having commissioners help plan and advocate for it. Probably something similar to that effect. But like again, for the purposes of the work plan, just a mention of like Lacey Pride planning or
Yeah, or
something to that effect.
partnering with pride functions or something.
Something we could contemplate is having in our Q2 or Q3 under engagement of having some sort of, we have placements right now for holding a focus group with community members and affinity groups, and maybe it's something where there is a focus with, you know, maybe nonprofit providers specifically in the community around that subject, and that could be something Commissioner Hegwood, we could do to, you know, see where the community's at and where there may be ways to partner in the future.
Facilitate it. Mhm. In Q3, that's past Pride Month.
Q2, I said Q2 or Q3.
Yeah.
Because there is a placeholder for a focus group during the second quarter, so.
Karen?
I think that's a really good idea. Though if we were to just it would be really difficult to just kind of pull the idea just out of the air, which is, so when you were saying like, I think that's up to the community. That would be really cool if, you know, all of them just, you know, we're in agreement of, oh, let's host this thing, but I think it would be really good to have, like, especially Commission on Equity, because, you know, it's equity, to just like prompt that idea and support it, or if like a city member who identified as LGBTQ plus, if they were willing to host that and, you know, be a supporting person, just so you can have someone who's I cannot remember the word, but someone who's like involved in the city. You can have that representative for the whole community, instead of trying to get a group of people to just try and plan something that maybe they don't know how to plan.
So the helping to facilitate is somebody from the city or the commission helping to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have some ideas about it. That would be good enough planning. I'd love to have one of the Friday night markets in June be a gay market. I think that would be really fun. But yeah, let's put that in if we can figure out a way to word that.
I do want to just highlight too, a couple of things. Number one, it's there is obviously the planning element too, and there's also the resource element that we have to keep in mind. But we are working with our partners on a variety of, our regional partners on a variety of other types of initiatives right now. And that includes, which Veronica is gonna be talking about a little bit later tonight, just an overview of where we're at with our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging regional summit. But also, taking a look at what could be some regional partnerships with June, for example. And so there could be some space as well to have some conversations on, what could be some collaborations around Pride regionally too.
Perfect place. Mhm.
So I've heard the commission and we'll take a look at an update, and I think we've, got a placeholder right now, just kind of under engagement that would allow us to explore this a little bit more.
I wanna say, in terms of the engagements, I think it's very important, that we have our Latinx, forum soon too. We had immigrant, part of the community of immigrants, but
I've been following up on that. I've been meeting with the Commission of Hispanic Affairs. But the director, the executive director, was also appointed director for interim for the Women's Commission. So even though we wanted to do it this year, 2024, the end of 2024, she couldn't. So I already met with them and we're trying to do it in the first quarter, February or March. They already agreed and we're looking into the logistics and how would we organize it, where will it be held and all of that. But I've been, working on it.
to clarify, the Commission on Equity
No,
would it be similar to the ones
Yeah,
that we've already
so
run?
it would be the exact same format that we've done before,
Mhm,
but only with Hispanics, with
Mhm,
Latinx.
mhm.
And the Commission of Hispanic is gonna help us invite their community.
Yeah, great.
But they already have the format, they have the questions we've done before, so I already sent them some information of what we've done in the past. And they agreed to collaborate with us.
Did want to just highlight to this group as well, and I know you all received this in the informational email that I sent out earlier with the packet. But we did also receive a request from PFLAG Olympia. And so I know, again, as we're talking about ways that there could be some sort of engagement or support of LGBTQIA friendly organizations, this is an LGBTQ plus resource fair. It is coming up really soon. It is on January 12th. And so that could also be an opportunity if there's a couple of commissioners who may be interested in attending the fair, and we can certainly communicate with the chapter president to see if there's still availability on that. And so I know Commissioner Hedgewood sent this email. So Commissioner, do you have any additional information you want to provide?
I was also I went to the PFLAG Holiday Bazaar that they had a few weeks back, benefiting PFLAG and other local queer organizations at the United Methodist Church in Olympia. Great event, really good turnout. But one of the folks from the PFLAG chapter actually asked if we might be interested in not only having a table there as a part of the resource fair, but also being a speaker and just kind of letting the community know, what we do, what we're working on, what we can assist with, kind of our scope of work, who we are as people, all of that. So, I personally would be interested, but also if there's other commissioners that would be interested in any or all of those above activities, I'm sure that they would love to have any and all of us, and I know that they appreciate any of the enthusiasm and support that we can offer.
Like to be involved.
So I've got Commissioner Hegwood, I've got you down here. I've got Commissioner Clay. Is there an additional commissioner who may want to be interested in being involved? So commissioners, I know this is a very quick turnaround because the 12th is 2 weeks from now. So I'll send out an email to the three of you to try to coordinate some information and time, and we can get some information together. If we can still make it on there, which I will reach out to the chapter president tomorrow.
Also worth noting, for tabling stuff, we pretty much just need to provide like a tablecloth and materials. The tables and chairs are already provided for us and set up. We just need to reserve a spot effectively. So that makes logistics a lot easier, especially with it only being 2 weeks out. We don't have to move anything really. So that'll be helpful for us.
I agree. That's very thoughtful of them.
That's a Sunday.
Great.
So commissioners, we do have a recommendation to again move forward with recommending what I will summarize as the amended 2025 work plan to the city council. The amendments include updating the information on the commissioners, removing the references to city designations, and then adding to Q2, Q3 focus groups, LGBTQIA plus involvement.
Voting?
I would ask, you would call for a motion, Chair.
I'm entertaining a motion that we vote on this sending this annotated work plan to the council. Have a motion?
I'll motion it.
Have a second?
Second.
Right, all those in favor of sending our work plan? Say aye.
I,
Any opposed? No, so moved, sending the 2025 work plan onto the city council.
Thank you.
Right, number 8, commissioner report. Commissioner Hedgewood, would you like to give us a report on the parks funding work group?
Yes, we met a whole bunch. As I last reported to the commission, we were finalizing our recommendation to the city council. I'm pleased to announce that we had reached a consensus on a plan for funding for the Parks and Rec. Our recommendations include the creation of a Metro Parks Board, as well as taking advantage of existing funding resources and also getting a commitment from the city for continuance of funding and their commitment to making Parks and Rec occur, even in the face of a creation of a Metro Parks district, should that occur. That would have to go to a vote, and that's an entire other thing logistically, and as far as the city is concerned, does not concern the city unless it passes or fails. But anyhow, we concluded our business on the 9th of December, and that was sent up to the city council for their review. We presented it at the city council meeting on the 17th, and Shannon, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was for further discussion on a work group that was actually canceled, but will be revisited at a later time whenever they have another work group focused on that specifically. But the recommendation is at the city council.
So just to add on to what the commissioner just said, so it is tentatively scheduled to go back in front of the council for further discussion on January 14th.
Thanks, Shannon.
Any other commissioners like to report?
If I could share just really quickly, one more thing on that item. So again, that it goes back to the topic we discussed earlier with the community survey. And so that conversation will continue on the 14th. And so we'll certainly get some more information, to this group on that discussion, as well as, updates on the community survey. But I did want to just thank Commissioner Hegwood for being a part of that Parks Improvement Funding Work Group. They met over a very condensed period of time to make sure that we could get this recommendation in front of the council before the end of the year. And I know there were, a total of 15 members as part of that, and everyone brought, a unique perspective to the table. And so thank you, Commissioner Hegwood.
Any other commissioner reports, things there? want to bring in? Right, moving on to the director's report. Shannon.
Great, commissioners, I just got a few quick updates for you. The first one being on the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Assembly. So the commissioners, Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Hart, Commissioner Sauer, and I will be meeting on January 2nd to discuss the assembly. Since the original assembly invitation, we've received another, and so I'll actually turn it over to Commissioner Brown to talk a little bit about that one.
Yeah, the second request is from North Thurston High School. They'll be having a general assembly. And they reached out and asked if we could present at their assembly as well. And so I thought that since we committed to Camacho Middle School, that we could also do the same presentation or very similar presentation to North Thurston High School's assembly as well. It's two levels, middle school versus high school. We can have a similar presentation, more broad for the middle school, and then we could, dive more into the theme and things and what it means and, how it impacts the community and how we all can play a role when it comes to equity, inclusion, and growth in the community. So that is what bring before the commission if we can do that. And we have opportunity to do both presentations on the same day versus having to go to different times. So we're looking at the 19th of January.
17th? Not the 17th?
Or whatever the day is.
I
think it's.
will confirm that
16th
right
and
now, but I
19th.
thought it was earlier than the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm looking on the minutes from last.
Okay, whatever that date is. Yeah.
Only thing I didn't have was
19th
a
Sunday.
time.
Oh, is it?
So I don't think it's then.
19th, it's 16th.
17th Friday.
17th is.
So it does look like.
Yeah, 17th is, I have on the calendar.
And
17th.
do we have a time? That was what I was looking for.
Well, we're
which is
looking
why
at
I was
Camacho
looking.
was AM, and then North Thurston High School will be PM.
We just don't know exactly what time in the morning. I thought maybe it was.
I don't know Camacho's time, I don't know,
Yeah.
but those details we'll.
And then what's on the second, because I did see the second this morning and I was like,
Just the
oh, I'm not gonna
meeting
come.
What's 3 2?
So yeah, the meeting is between the three, just to make sure that, we have any materials that you might need
Yeah.
prepared for the assemblies.
Yeah, because I
And
may
I-
have to do Zoom. I know I'm working that day, so I may have to do a Zoom meeting if that's.
On the second.
For the one on the second,
Oh,
yes, no,
okay.
not the day of.
And there is an invite for a remote meeting as well as an in-person meeting. And I did pull up the message, and so I just want to confirm that it is the morning of Friday, January 17th.
Morning, what time? do you
We
know?
will connect with Katie to make sure that we have the exact time for that assembly.
So we have in the morning and in the afternoon, so twice that day?
And probably early afternoon, because high school gets out pretty early.
And then you can go and relax that evening and listen to Thelma Jackson do her presentation. Mhm.
Is yours the 17th as well?
Mhm.
Oh, okay,
South Puget Sound.
okay, so boy, I'm gonna be busy then.
It sounds like
the day off.
got a lot of things going on that day.
Yes,
A lot of voices out there.
all right.
So we'll be able to provide a update on how the events went at the next meeting, but I will connect with you commissioners here shortly
Okay.
on Thursday, January 2nd. I believe I said Wednesday, but that is not the correct day. Please do not show up here on Wednesday.
Thank you all for doing that, stepping up and sharing with the community.
The next item I have is just a notification that we will be having the 2025 Advisory Board Stipend Program. So this was something that again was approved by council through the 2025 budget. And so at the beginning of this upcoming year, you will receive a invitation to opt in or opt out of the program. And so just a quick review, you can opt into the program and you can receive a stipend of $50 for every meeting attended, whether in person or remote, up to $500 per year. With the advisory board stipend email opt-in and opt-out, we're also going to be sending out the demographic survey for our advisory board members to take as well. My third item on the list is for a diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging summit update, and I'll turn it over to Veronica.
So we've been having meetings. Our next meeting is gonna be on January 13. We have several community organizations that have accepted our invitation to join. It seems like it's gonna take place on April 19 at the Lacey campus for SPSEC. They are charging us, we're gonna use their large room and then the classrooms for workshops. It's gonna be between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. We're still thinking of the format, but we're thinking of having like a guest speaker to begin with, and then do some sort of training from another speaker. We already have a list of potential speakers. I'll get into that in a minute. And then the afternoon after lunch would be workshops divided into classrooms. The SPSEC is charging us $2,725 for the facilities, just to cover the salary of the people who will have to work that day, because it's on a Sunday. But the city of Olympia said that they would already pay, that they would pay $2,000. And the YMCA, Olympia YMCA will potentially, they have $2,000 for this event, so they would use it on that if necessary. We did offer that we had the Washington Center, because we already had offered it. And we even offered the community, the Lacey Community Center, but they preferred the location here. The partners that we've been working more actively so far, we're still reaching out to other community associations and groups, but it's APIC with Liz. I don't know if you know them. I'll mention the names very quickly, but it's Lynn Crowley from APIC, or the Asia Pacific Islander Foundation. The City of Olympia, different departments and programs within the City of Olympia, City of Tom Water, the YMCA in Olympia, the SPSEC, the Equity Coalition. I'm meeting also with ASHO. They're also interested in joining. I haven't met with her, but I already booked the meeting with her, and she knows about it already. And then we have some like consultants, DI consultants who also want to participate, and we're opening to everybody. And the idea for the next meeting on January 13 is that we're gonna create committees. So we have a committee who's gonna start reaching out to the community organizations and different education institutions, financial institutions, to just invite them to join and do like more kind of a marketing effort. And then the other committee will be for sponsorship, looking sponsorship for, because we still have to pay for a meal. So we'll be focusing on that. The goals that we have, is one of the main goals is that we want to see who's doing what within the DEI area or body of work in the region. So we want to see who's doing what are the things that we share in common, like common goals, so that we can join efforts and have like a common front. We want to create a directory so that we can identify which institutions, which person, and what is their priorities, challenges, things like that. And then we want to create a network where we're going to be able to work together, help each other, share best practices, resources, help navigate challenges, things like that. So we want to create like a greater community, and knowing who is who. The other goal is, identify challenges and gaps to create solutions jointly. And just have more visibility of who's who and what are they doing in the community. I think that's all for now. The goal we have, it's 200 participants. So it's pretty ambitious. I don't know if we're gonna get it, but.
So I have a question. I didn't hear anything about the role of the Commission on Equity, that event. What is the role specifically of the Commission on Equity?
How
Other
can
than
we
to
help
just
you?
show up?
Well, maybe if you could help us within the workshops, if each one of us could lead the workshops. That would be very important and that would be a big help. If you could also, we're gonna prepare a joint, like a invitation letter. So if you could also help us spread the word and invite community associations, churches, your churches, just like help us with the outreach effort. That would be also very useful. I don't know if there's anything else that you could think you could do to support the effort. We're still very open. We're still in the very early stages. But I'm so happy that you're asking this question because I also didn't know if we could include you in their meetings, in our meetings, in our planning meetings. So far, I haven't done it and I apologize because I'm new to this and maybe I should have asked in the last meeting. But if you're still interested, we would love for you to participate in the upcoming meetings. And the next one will be, as I mentioned, on January 13th.
Yeah, maybe I have a misconception, but I was under the impression that this was a Commission on Equity initiative, that we would be the host of this event. I thought this was a Commission on Equity led event, that we was, City of Lacey and its Commission on Equity would be the host. It appears that you're leading this, but I think it on behalf of the Commission on Equity and that we would be the umbrella leaders as this is being organized and developed.
So again, I'm so happy we're having this conversation because I was under the impression that the City of Lacey was not gonna be the lead, that we wanted it to be a community effort led by the community and not just the City of Lacey.
So if I could maybe just jump in here, commissioners, I think there's still some opportunities that could exist for us, commissioners and maybe some other commissions members as well to be involved in this planning. And I think, Veronica mentioned they're still open. We have some possibilities with some workshops. So what we can do is we can, go back to the larger group and just have a discussion of how our commissions may be able to be involved in this process. So I think you brought up a really good point, and we can have that as a discussion as part of the next meeting. And you said the next meeting is when, Veronica?
June 13th.
January?
No, I'm sorry, January, yes.
Okay, so it's coming up, and so we can be able to give this commission an update here shortly.
So when you mean hosting, so you want us to host it like in one of our facilities?
No, I'm saying
Just taking the lead.
we're the convening authority for this event to introduce what we're doing today, to be the lead, saying, here's the agenda for the day, this is what we're going to do. We want you to do these things, here are our goals for the day, here's how we're gonna go about accomplishing this. At the end of the day, bring closure to that particular event. But we are the leaders and clearly identified as the lead group organization for this event. It appears that now everybody is participating from different entities. And okay, who's the convening authority? Whose initiative is this? This has been in our strategic plan. And we've been talking about it for a year and going forward, and now it looks like we're just kind of a side note for the event. That's just my
Kind of
way I
an
see it.
invitee.
Right, we're an invitee.
Commissioners, I think
Seems like our role's been minimized.
there's some opportunities and we have some room for future discussion. And so we can bring up the fact that we would like to have a opportunity as, whether it's helping facilitate workshop or helping open ceremonies, we can certainly have those discussions. And I think you're right. This is something that, we started the conversation, but we also wanted to make sure it was regional in nature to bring in, all of the different community members across Thurston County to hear about what's been going on. And for background, this started off as let's get the jurisdictions together and hear what are some of the equity efforts. And so I know the commissioners, you did the heavy lifting for those presentations. And so we can certainly continue to have that dialogue and get some more information.
Especially as we've been the source, these other jurisdictions been reaching out to us in many forms, asking, what are you doing? How you do this? Can we do this? What impact are you having? What's your relationship with the city council? How are you able to push these things? They're interested in a lot of those things as well. The training pieces and the seminars, workshops, I mean, that's good. They're good, get good information, but we're looking at the real impact on the community and how a commission like ours and others in similar jurisdictions are working with their city to push initiative, to make their city a welcoming community, to make sure that DEI is a great part of it. All of those types of things, that's interesting as well. And I think that type of information should be shared itself. The League of Women Voters did a great job of pulling us together and had some great questions and good panels. That type of stuff was impactful, and that caused additional communication, additional, a collaboration in reaching out and working across lines. I don't think we should miss that in this type of event. The other things are important, but I don't think we should miss on how a commission like ours or similar in other jurisdictions can impact their cities in their city leadership as they push things forward as relates to DEI.
Yeah, I think we were in the forefront of these ideas, and the League of Women Voters helped us move forward. And then it created something of its own. I think the horses left the barn, and then we have to now figure out how we can use our knowledge and share it in a good way when
Right
when
now,
we
there's
come.
really not a leader. Lynn from the League of Women's Voters is the one who's been booking the meetings, like sending the Zoom links and taking the meeting notes and emailing the meeting notes. So perhaps it's a good time for us to get together before the June 13th meeting and create like a proposal for all of them. Because there's not one single leader so far. So we can come up with a suggested agenda and a proposal, a work plan, or some sort of strategy. We could present it to them, and that way we could take the leader if that's what we want to do. But I apologize, I was under the impression that it was gonna be a regional thing, not a Commission of Equity initiative. So that's my mistake. I apologize for that.
Yeah, and I'll be done with it, but I think that League of Women Voters and Lacey's Commission on Equity were in the forefront of creating and coming up with these ideas and putting it in our plan and wanted to move it forward. So I just don't think our role should be minimized. I think us and the League of Women Voters potentially should be the lead organizations for this event.
I think we gotta play a little bit of catch up, because it sounds like things are already kind of.
I'm not questioning the plan, but I'm questioning our role
Yes.
in this.
So maybe commissioners, just a thought to run by you is, again, we have this meeting coming up, but we could propose that one of the work sessions that we get to craft and help create, and it could be what I heard from you, Commissioner Brown, which I think is a really good one, of getting together members of various equity advisory boards and hearing about their impact on Thurston County and some of the efforts that they're doing working with local governments. And I think that could be a really fascinating workshop and panel to understand that, but also to get more people interested in potentially, whether it's volunteering or serving in the future to help with these types of efforts. And so I think what, Veronica was saying is we have some opportunities still here that exist. And so we can go back into this meeting coming up and advocate that we get to help set up and I think that that's a really good idea for a potential panel workshop. And so we could go back to them and propose that we'd like to move forward with adding that addition to the equity summit, and then we could take an active role in, you know, making sure that we're inviting individuals to that panel or workshop.
Then can we also take a look at what things you guys are planning on doing for that day to make sure that, you know, whether it be a panel, you know, the different seminars, what they're gonna be discussing, so that we can make sure that,
Everything's still pretty much
Pretty
in the air.
vague.
We haven't contacted anybody other than the community organizations that I mentioned.
okay,
So everything's up in the air. So we're right on the perfect timing to make something like that happen.
okay.
And
What,
we-
what
we
time on the
take-
13th were you guys gonna meet at, and do you know where exactly, just yet?
It's just a Zoom meeting, so I will send the link well, I'll ask Lynn to include all of you to send
Well,
the Zoom link, but
So hold on, we can't have everybody included all at once because we have a public meeting, and so it has to be a committee of three
Oh,
or
that's
less
right.
members.
Yes.
And so I think, you know, one thing we could do is identify if there's a commissioner or two who want to help work on this. And then we can make sure to keep all the rest of the commissioners informed moving forward, but it'd be, again, we can't have more than three, but I think one or two would be ideal.
John raises.
Yeah, so as I previously mentioned, I've hosted and planned several equity summits. So I would be more than willing to offer my insight on what we're currently planning, as well as, you know, making sure that the commission is being advocated for, as well as, like, you know, our position in the community. As a leader on matters of equity from a city standpoint, we were the first in the county to have this by quite a large margin. As Commissioner Brown so eloquently put it, like, this, we've been leading this charge, and I think that we should continue to do so. And so, yeah, I'm 100% behind this, as I've mentioned previously, and I definitely see the role of the commission, if not the entire commission, at the summit itself, but also actively involved in the planning process and, in my opinion, the leadership for the planning process. But that's, you know, we could have those discussions. But yes, I would love to be included on these meetings and advocate for the commission.
So I got Commissioner Hedgewood, and I assume Commissioner Brown, you'd also be interested.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
I was about to ask the question when Cliff jumped in, who's sponsoring this summit? What happened to the original idea that we had about it? Because it seemed to have gone cattywampus on us, but the remaining conversation was very relevant. And, you know, I'll just ask the question, where's this equity council in all this? But I'm out of time, but I support you, Cliff. I support you, John. Yeah, Lacey led the way, and I think it's more than just us creating a workshop within a day. And it's not just us, but it's the other volunteers out there working hard to make equity work. Not just the staff people and the paid people. So that was where it was coming from. So I'll just stop at that. So let's see where things go on the 13th, and, you know.
What about
I
those
understand you all have to
folks,
go.
Yes.
Yeah.
You all have to leave?
No, I don't need to end because we still have enough people.
You have to leave, both of
Yes,
you?
yes, we have an important event to go to.
Yeah.
I'm also
Thank
just
you.
wondering, the Dog March group, you know, I don't know what they are called. Remember
It's the
Dog?
Equity Council,
Oh, okay,
Equity
are they involved in
Equity
this?
coalition.
Equity Coalition, I mean, not council, I'm sorry.
Coalition. Are
Are
they?
involved?
Well, we invited them, we had a meeting with them, we invited them, but they haven't done anything yet.
Oh, okay.
So they are aware of it, they said they would support it, but they haven't done anything.
And I will say that there are some key members of that group who are participating in the meetings, you know, so
Yeah,
for
from
example,
different-
there's representatives from SPSCC and OSHO that we're gonna be meeting with, so.
Mhm. I'm excited about a guest speaker. I hope we get somebody really dynamic, who has a lot of expertise in the field that would draw, you know, community members to hear them, you know.
Would Dr. Thelma Jackson would be one
No,
of the
I-
best
Uh,
to go?
I think I would really go for somebody who is,
You haven't heard it before?
pardon? I mean, she does so much work for us. I wouldn't want to ask. I would like to see somebody new and dynamic and, you know, that will draw from it.
Yes, you may even know
Different.
somebody too, that, you know, we
And maybe
haven't
I'll
heard from
Figure out
before.
some.
And then would the participants have to pay anything to attend the seminar? Have we hashed that or talked about any of that at all?
We haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about a budget, nothing. Just the offering from the city of Olympia of $2,000 and potentially the offer from YMCA for $2,000. But she just told me that verbally, she hasn't put it in writing.
Well, the city of Lacey, do we have any budget?
Yeah, we will also be helping support this. And again,
Yeah,
I guess
thank you.
commissioners, maybe if I could just take a step back, you know, again, this was identified as a regional like element. You can't have a summit with just, you know, one group. We really want
Yeah.
to involve everybody and be inclusive to see what different perspectives
And
are in
that
the
was
community.
definitely what I thought it
And-
was too, yes.
And I think there is gonna be, you know, we can find a role for the Commission on Equity because this group has been important and other advisory groups have been important. I think there could be some opportunities there within the summit. But I think just recognizing that if we want to hear from other community members about what's going on, you've got to be inclusive and hear different perspectives as well. And so that's what we're trying to do, and that's what Veronica has been working with other group members to establish and set up. And we, you know, want to make this a successful event, knowing that if it is, we can continue to do it in the future and we can continue to learn from each other. And we can continue to, you know, have forward momentum and progress here in the county. And have it, you know, potentially be more collaborative in the future as well, where we're able to maybe partner on things like, you know, Juneteenth events or Pride events, you know, here. So it's really about helping, you know, establish the relationships and build those collaboration points and learn from each other so that we can make Thurston County a better place wholly.
So who's
Thank you
gonna,
for your work on this, and I know it was a dream, you know, one of the vision of the Equity Commission to have a position like yours in the city, you know, that the city is taking this very seriously and working hard for it, so thank you.
so just to make sure, who is it gonna be invited for the next meeting on January 13th? Commissioner Hedgewood?
Cliff Brown.
Okay, just the two, okay.
I have one more item under my
I
items
also have
here.
one more thing that I wanted to share. Sorry, it's also the YMCA. They are organizing what they call the National Day of Racial Healing.
YMCA?
The YMCA in Olympia, yeah. And the National Day of Racial Healing, they did an event last year. It's on January 21st. And they wanna do events during the whole week. So they're reaching out to different community organizations and groups, inviting them to organize something to commemorate the National Day of Racial Healing. So there are all kinds of events that anybody could organize as groups, just with this intent. So they are organizing, they have like an Excel spreadsheet with suggestions of events that the groups could organize. They had something on January 25th, which is a Saturday, a healing circle. So I volunteered with someone else, a DI consultant, to help facilitate that healing circle. And the idea that we have is to invite the Nisqually tribe so they can help us with the healing circle with some of their wisdom and practices. And it would involve some dancing and drumming, hopefully. So I wanted to bring this to the group and see if there's anything as the commission that we would like to do for the National Day of Racial Healing, or on January 25th, the day for the the healing circle. The approach that we're taking for the healing circle, it's because usually or traditionally, it's been about taking from the tribes. So we want to also offer something, and we will still ask them to participate and guide the healing circle. But we're looking into options of something like some kind of an offering that we could do, maybe some. It doesn't have to be something material, it could be something emotional or some healing practices that we could share that someone knows, something like that. So we wanna do this approach where we come and offer something. It's gotta be something that they also wanna welcome. So we're still thinking about that, so I just wanted to bring it up to see if you had any suggestions as well. And then we'll invite them to lead that effort.
If you have any updates about it, just you send us emails so that we're.
Okay.
kind of
I'd be interested. That sounds like a
Up to date.
good to go.
Sorry, Shannon, that's all.
So last item I have is the chair mentioned earlier to me that the Lacey Cultural Celebration is coming up. And so it is on February 1st of 2025. It seems much earlier this year than what we've had previously. I believe they've previously been in March. So I just wanted to check in with the commission. Last 3 years now, the commission has had a booth there. And so to see if there was interest in having the booth there. So I just wanted to check in with commissioners.
I'd be
It's
interested.
really a fun event.
Yeah.
It was just packed last year.
Yeah.
Just everybody,
Yeah.
people were coming from miles around really, and a lot of different traditional performances and a lot of good booths, a lot of food, a lot of things. It's a fun thing to be at.
Yeah.
So
I'd be interested in
would like to have it again.
helping out. I may have to look about even getting for my own business again this
Yeah.
year, but yeah, definitely doing a shift at the booth if we choose to have one
I
there.
talked to Shannon about maybe getting a poster made of our accomplishments that we could put, hang up, point to. People are always asking, what are we about and what have we done?
Yeah.
The other thing I thought is framing the proclamation against hate. Framing that, making it bigger, framing it and putting it on at our booth. I mean, another way of making that statement and clearly spreading that statement.
I would even go a step further in saying that perhaps after we do that, we could have it in a place of significance at City Hall.
We can certainly see what we could do with some of those materials, and we do have the opportunity to do some printing, and so we can see what that could look like. So, but I've heard from a couple of commissioners that there's interest in being a part of it. Are there interest from other commissioners?
Yes. Also,
Okay.
for me, I think there's very few other cultural crossroad events in Lacey where we can really connect with people from all different walks of life, both for and against what we're doing, and help, educate some folks, or maybe just have those conversations that might just move the needle, however slightly.
Well, I would say then, commissioners, put it on your calendar and we'll send out an email and follow up to this and just ask for some shift times that might work for you.
Yeah.
And that is everything I have, Chair.
All right, well, wanna just note that the next commission meeting is on the 27th, 5:30 here. I have to apologize that I've been one of the people who are like really want people to show up here. And I didn't exactly think that I was going to do another stint, so Actually, the next two meetings, I'm going to be on the screen. Uh, And then in February 24th, we're gonna have the joint meeting with the Lacey Youth Council, which will be great. Right, if there's no other business, I will adjourn the commission meeting at 7:24. Thank you.